Against all the evil that hell can conjure, all the wickedness that mankind can produce, we will send unto them only you.
Doom Eternal. Let's just get this out of the way. If you do not see how Doom Eternal is anything but an absolute FPS masterpiece, then I don't know what to tell you, bro. You just posted cringe. With the uncompromising combat and intelligent enemy AI, it honestly has blown the competition out of the water, once again paving the way of what a true FPS should look and, more importantly, play like. Although not only was the combat truly groundbreaking, but id Software's approach to the world and level design within Eternal, I mean the backdrops, the vistas are simply jaw-dropping, immersing every inch of your very being within these hellish and otherworldly environments. Not only is each level stunning to look at, but each is filled with challenges, collectibles, lore, weapons, and of course, the very topic of today's mega Doom video, or short film at this point, hidden Easter eggs and references. Now, id Software and the Doom franchise have never really been one to shy away from hidden Easter eggs or referencing the industry at large within their titles. From studio directors' decapitated heads becoming a part of a final boss to referencing the company's many other franchises. For example, Bethesda's Fallout universe's Vault-Tec company can be found seemingly working with Doom's Mixon company to create these giant vault doors within Doom 2016's opening level. Or how about the Elder Scrolls' Dovahkiin, aka the Dragonborn's remains, can be found within the pits of hell, of course accompanied by an arrow to the knee, a famous phrase muttered within the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. Again, throughout history, it's been no secret that the Doom franchise is littered with these secret Easter eggs and references, and in this case, Doom Eternal is no different, as this brand new entry has to be id Software's largest Easter egg count hidden within a single Doom title yet, and hell, maybe even the most Easter eggs found within any single player game ever. Now, I have spent up to just over a month diving through each and every level throughout Doom Eternal's main campaign, plus the game's first batch of DLC, The Ancient Gods Part 1, and much, much more. Literally every crack, every crevice, every unholy pixel of this industry-shaking title has been researched and studied to finally uncover each and every single Easter egg and hidden reference within Doom Eternal and The Ancient Gods Part 1. And I mean, look, let's just put it this way. At this moment in time, I've discovered more Easter eggs hidden within Doom Eternal than there are Pokemon in the entire Kanto region. Yeah, that's right. Now, just to disclose that all of the Easter eggs shown within this video are all secret Easter eggs, which means no collectible references like the vinyls or the toys, which are more commonly found throughout the levels and are normally kind of marked on the map. Daisy locations are also excluded from this video, as I have already made 2 previous videos on where you can find all 20 locations and references within Doom Eternal and its DLC. Also, if you do wish to see Daisy for yourself, I will leave both videos linked down in the description below, alongside timestamps for each and every Easter egg shown within this video. Now, if Doom/Bethesda related content interests you, be sure to hit that on that subscribe and notification button, seeing as I am working on bigger projects and videos nowadays which do take longer. I wouldn't want you to miss out on those once they are uploaded. So without further ado, let's begin ripping and tearing throughout Doom Eternal. Now, our first Easter egg throughout Doom Eternal plays out during the opening cutscene, where we see the Slayer gearing up on board the Fortress of Doom. Doom. Now, these close-up shots of the Slayer preparing for battle is a direct influence from the action blockbuster film Rambo: First Blood, starring Sylvester Stallone, which released in 1982, as director Hugo Martin revealed that Rambo directly influenced the opening cutscene, creating a sense of purpose before diving into the chaos that is about to ensue. The film is also a repeat influence during the opening moments of Doom Eternal's first chapter of DLC, The Ancient Gods, as we see the Slayer during the opening cutscene sharpening his knife or blade, much like that of Rambo in First Blood. Continuing on, the title of the very first location within Doom Eternal, Hell on Earth, is actually a direct reference to a very obscure, non-canon Doom novel, which first published in 1995 under the same name, Hell on Earth. Anyway, early on during the opening level, Hell on Earth, we can come across a lone intact tree standing amongst the sheer chaos and destruction of this hellish invasion surrounding you. Now, if you walk up to this lone tree, you'll see holding onto the cliff edge is a giant mechanical arm. Not much to go off, right? I hear you all saying, well Dom, it's just a tree and an arm. I mean, what's special about this? Well, as it turns out, this is an Easter egg and a reference to the 1999 children's film The Iron Giant, referencing the moment that the boy character Hogarth teaches the Iron Giant to speak for the first time, with his first words being tree and rock, which in said film the behemoth is holding onto a giant rock and a tree in hand. Shortly after this, inside the following building, we can discover 3 missing posters for 3 dogs. Now, as it turns out that these 3 puppers are the real-life pets of id Software's development team. Although not only is this an Easter egg by itself, hiding within one of the 3 posters lies a hidden reference to the popular anime series and manga Berserk, with the inscription "last seen with a branded swordsman," and that the dog goes by the name Griffin. This is a clever nod by id Software to the anime series' first episode titled The Branded Swordsman and the character Griffith. Moving on, and we'll arrive at this desolate subway station with a few clothing stores around you. Inside the first one to the left, we can find a few hidden Easter eggs that bury within the rubble. Firstly, if we look at any temperature gauges on these thermometers that are located throughout various locations throughout the game, they'll read 666, which is of course referencing the number of the beast, and a fitting temperature for this hellish invasion. As well as this sultry reading, if we walk over to the cash register, we can find a carton of milk, and printed upon it, you'll find a missing persons report that reads missing Anthony Garza. If you have any information regarding this youth, please contact your local lighting department. But fret not though, as this missing child's report, name and picture is of course a direct reference to id Software's environmental designer, Anthony Garza. A cool little Easter egg that can easily go unnoticed throughout this level. Although this isn't the first Easter egg featuring a member of id Software's development team, as you will soon come to find out. Next up, if we leave this area, we'll see a store sign above 2 disturbing turrets, and it's here we'll see our next major Easter egg. As you may have already realized that the store name "What You Sellin'" is a direct quote taken from the popular merchant of Resident Evil 4. Now, this legendary quote is always muttered as the game's protagonist Leon approaches the mysterious merchant, saying, "What you buying?" and of course, "What you selling?" A brilliant Easter egg from id Software here, and one that really speaks to the Resident Evil fanbase. And I'm glad to say that this isn't the only Resident Evil Easter egg hidden within Doom Eternal, but more on that when we get there. Now, just besides this wonderful Easter egg, we can find a movie poster for a film called Mars Walker. Now, funny enough, this is an in-universe Easter egg, as this franchise can be found first hidden within the level design of Doom 2016. Although it seems that this franchise is doing well for itself, as it was first noticed as a novel and now it's been turned into a film within Eternal. Also, if we take a closer look, we can read that the film is being directed by Hugo Tarmin, which is of course an anagram for studio director Hugo Martin. Now, throughout Doom Eternal, we'll continuously see these giant, glorious mechs. These are a very specific Easter egg and reference implemented by studio director Hugo Martin himself as an homage to the hit film series Pacific Rim. as not only does the studio director love mechs and the franchise, but he also worked on the 2013 film alongside Guillermo del Toro himself, and revealed in a recent interview that he had to pay respects to the franchise wherever he could within Doom Eternal. Shortly after this, and we'll come across a building labeled Moss Records. This is of course a reference to id Software's sound designer Chad Mossholder, the man responsible for all the amazing sound design behind each weapon, glory kill, and squelch and scream within this hell-raising experience. Carry on further into the level and we'll be met with our first arena type battle. Slay these degenerates, and in the corner of the room we can see a coffee store. Now if you look closely at the branding of this coffee store, we'll see that the coffee symbol itself is actually a secret Easter egg for id Software's Commander Keen, as the steam that is rising above the coffee cup is shaped in the manner of Commander Keen's helmet. Now before we actually leave this area, we can find one more hidden Easter egg within the top floor of this room, which is presented to us on a large LCD screen, listing a bunch of names retaining to quality excellence. This is in fact the names of id Software's actual quality assurance team and the people who tested Doom Eternal before its inevitable release. I have to say, it's a great little thank you for their efforts to immortalize these people and heroes that made this game as smooth as possible within Doom Eternal. Up next, we travel to the second level within Eternal, Exaltia, where we can find our first Easter egg pretty early on throughout the level. Hidden within the Codex entry, The History of the Sentinels Part 1, if we scroll through the lore, we can actually find a one King Romero, the Father. This is of course an anagram for id Software's founder and father of Doom, John Romero. An amazing salute towards the man who birthed the FPS genre into what we know it as today. Proceed throughout the level and we'll be greeted by a cutscene, and where we meet the one King Novik. Initially, for the first time, and I did too, you may just breeze through this cutscene and not be really any the wiser. But if you look closely at King Novik's character model, you'll discover a pretty metal as fuck Easter egg, as King Novik was actually modeled around the legendary bassist slash frontman Lemmy Kilmister of Motorhead. As you can see, King Novik shares the same mustache and facial features to, of course, Lemmy, an amazing tribute to an industry-changing legend. Now, once you have entered the portal into the hell portion of the level, scattered throughout the area, you can find these skull-like flamethrowers. These are in fact an Easter egg for Doom 2016, as they take the shape of the older Cyber Demon models that no longer exist within Doom Eternal. A small little nod to Doom's past, and for me, a flashback to a boss battle I do not wish to repeat anytime soon. Once you have entered the lava section, if you fall in and die, an Easter egg can occur that looks like this. This is indeed a direct reference to the 1991 action film Terminator 2: Judgment Day, in where Arnold Schwarzenegger's character sacrifices himself for humanity, and before the lava engulfs him, he raises up a single thumbs up. This is also a reprised Easter egg from Doom 2016. Moving on, just past the first major platforming section, hidden besides one of the cliff sides, we can discover a very strange and random Easter egg. This unmarked location represents the first old Sprite Easter eggs hidden within Eternal, a piece of the older Doom titles in this brand spanking shiny new world. Now, if you interact with this door, something strange will occur. Yeah, strange, right? My buddy Camelworks actually asked one of the developers whilst testing Doom Eternal before release about this strange Easter egg, and got no real answer as to what this really is. For me, I honestly believe it's most likely cut content. Maybe they were going to reveal a classic section, much like what they did within Doom 2016. But with that, we travel to the third level Cultist base to hunt down more hidden Easter eggs and references. And again, this one's pretty close to the beginning of the level. So take care of the smattering hellspawn around you, walk over to the cliff edge and look down. There we can find hanging off a crane is our first legendary Dopefish Easter egg. An Easter egg from id Software's older IP Commander Keen, which has become somewhat of a self-aware joke within the industry for its goofy design and has been an Easter egg throughout many of id Software's titles. And these little buggers are littered throughout Doom Eternal too. A second Dopefish Easter egg can be found just a little later into the level. By the giant crane, if you look down, jump over and swing off the monkey bar, there we will find our second Dopefish location. Now, the last Dopefish location can be found once you have completed the majority of the level, in where you will be brought back into this opening section of Cultist base, and just to the right a cave will open up on the opposite side of the cliff. Jump over and you will find this devilishly handsome fish. Now, moving away from fishy eggs, closer towards the ending of the level, we'll meet this giant hologram of one Dreg Raynak surrounded by his disciples bowing to him. A very cinematic and stunning design choice for the player to look at and behold. Well, as it turns out, this is actually a reference to the 1987 film He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, where the antagonist Skeletor addresses the universe and his disciples as he becomes a godlike figure. Although this isn't the only He-Man reference within this game, but more on that when we get to it, as Hugo Martin disclosed that He-Man influenced the art direction for Doom Eternal's new universe, so stay tuned for a lot more He-Man references. Following this, in the level Doom Hunter's base, we can find these floating droids. Now, as it turns out, these droids have been taken influence from the 1980s Star Wars film Empire Strikes Back, in where Han Solo shoots down an Empire recon droid with a similar design. Of course, it has been Doomified, but the similarities are definitely noticeable. The next Easter egg on this list has to be the most obscure Easter egg found within any video game ever. Found within the opening area of the 5th level Super Gore Nest, if you look out into the ruin and destruction of Earth, you will see various sparks and debris and rubble floating throughout the air. Now, if you use the photo mode and zoom into one of these pieces of paper floating through the air, we can find a ridiculously obscure Easter egg for Rage 2, as we can see the announcement artwork model underneath an article talking about a post-apocalyptic wasteland. We can also find a reference to id Software's past within the opposite article, talking about a major ban on violent video games. This is likely a reference to the fact that Doom was banned in countries such as Germany for a massive 17 years. This Easter egg can also be found within the opening area of the final level, Final Sin. Again, this has to go down as one of the most obscure / hardest Easter eggs to actually discover naturally, as it's so minimal, and I mean, who the hell would ever think to look at a piece of paper floating throughout the air? Well, me, I guess. Also, in the background, we can find a building that just spells LOL. I'm pretty sure the devs were just trolling us at this point. We'll also find in the opening area beside the train wreckage a map of all the subway stations within this location. Now, if we take a closer look, we'll find out that most of the stations and streets have been named after id Software developers and Doom-related lore, a hidden detail that can largely go unnoticed. Continuing on, and we'll arrive outside of a store called P. Bailey and Sons. Now, the store name is actually named after Philip Bailey, a senior artist within id Software. Now, if we walk towards the store, inside we can find a seriously touching Easter egg and tribute to a fallen industry hero. As we can see in the back of the store, we can find a large top hat that rests beside a sign that reads "Slay Cancer." This is a beautiful tribute to the YouTuber / esports caster and all-round industry veteran Total Biscuit, who sadly passed away from a long battle with cancer back in 2018. John Bain was an avid supporter of Doom and continuously used his platform to praise id Software on the remarkable work they had put into Doom 2016 and the franchise in general. So it only feels right to immortalize him here within Eternal. After, we'll come out out into this shopping mall section of the level, where in front of us we can find a store with a few hidden secrets and Easter eggs inside. Firstly, if we look out into the storefront, you can see that this store is called Hugo, which as we know from earlier is indeed an anagram for studio director Hugo Martin. But inside the store, we can find an old sprite of what looks like to be an impaled body. Now, not only is this a reference to the classic Doom titles, but the same sprite can also be located within the antagonist's office of Olivia Pierce within Doom 2016, featuring within a minigame called Demon Destruction on her desktop. So it seems fitting that the store named after id Software's main director features the same sprite as Olivia Pierce. Maybe it's a sign of power. Also, besides this Easter egg, we can find another that actually stems from the Fallout universe, as we can see this teddy bear. Now this bear in particular is named Mr. Fuzzy, which can normally be found within Camden Park, featured in Fallout 76. As well as this, another Fallout Easter egg can be found directly opposite our current location. Sat beside a modbot, tucked away in the corner, we can find another bear, although this time featuring black fur and piercing red eyes. Now these bears are actually called Fear, and again are a collectible from the game Fallout 76. Leading on, if we make our way back around to the Hugo store, on the opposite side of the mall we can find another touching tribute to one of id Software's legends, as not only is this store labelled Farmer Don's, but inside we can find a badass image of Don sitting atop of his motorbike. Now the store name and the image is a beloved tribute to Don Ivan Punchat, who sadly passed away in 2009. Don was the man/artist responsible for designing Doom's iconic original artwork and logo, an art style and imagery that has lived within Doom to this very day, a style that Doom and id Software keep very close to their chest. I mean, this artwork is a part of Doom's identity. What an amazing and wonderful tribute to a truly brilliant artist. Now, the last storefront Easter egg comes to us just a little further on beyond this point. On the same floor of the mall, we can spot a storefront called Blasco's Books. This is of course a reference to Wolfenstein's protagonist BJ Blazkowicz. Now, these next set of Easter eggs can only be triggered in one certain way, so pay close attention if you wish to see this for yourself. Now, once you've collected all of the Gore Nest keys within the level, if you look to the very right of the area, you can find a happy birthday balloon that appears inside of what looks like to be a sewer tunnel. Shoot at it until it bursts. Now, once you have done so, head over to the very left of the area where we can see a giant mech hand covering another happy birthday balloon. So once again, shoot it until it bursts. Then finally head to the ground floor where we can find a third balloon hidden underneath the shell of a broken bus, which actually the third and final balloon is an Easter egg within itself, as the Dopefish design is printed upon it, of course adding to the list of Dopefish Easter eggs. Of course, shoot this sucker until it pops. Once you have done so, you will hear a strange booing noise. Now, once you have heard this booing noise, if you return to the Gore Nest, sitting in front of this pulsating monolith, you can find a giant ocean-themed birthday cake. As well as this, if you actually look up at the Super Gore Nest, you will find that it is now sporting a very snazzy birthday hat. Now, all of these things, the birthday balloons, the ocean-themed birthday cake, the party hat, and the booing, are all actually referencing an Easter egg found within a secret area within Doom 2016, where upon the 10th level Titan's Realm, we can find a skeleton supporting the same birthday hat, sat beside the same ocean-themed cake, and the exact same happy birthday balloon. A great callback to Doom 2016's most secretive Easter egg. Although that's not all. If you take the power up that resides above the cake, you will actually activate a hidden boss battle that doesn't trigger any other way throughout the game. A great random event that is a great way to test your skills against the cyber demons pretty early on throughout the game, so prepare for that. After this, closer to the final moments of the level, you will trigger a quest named Get to the Chopper, which is of course a iconic quote from Arnold Schwarzenegger featured within the 1987 film Predator. Once you have dealt with that, it's time to move on to the Ark complex, where we can find a fair few surprisingly good Easter eggs. Not to say that the others weren't, but these ones definitely caught me off guard. Our first stop is within this office space near the beginning of the level, where on the back wall of the office space we can find a drawing of what looks like to be a cat with a few hearts above it. This is actually a reference to YouTuber slash animator under the name Lee Hardcastle, who creates these amazing Doom animations called Claycat's Doom. These animations were hugely popular online and with the devs at id Software. They just seem to fit the bloody, gory, yet fun aspect of Doom perfectly, and so the character Claycat has been immortalized here within Eternal forever. Now up next we find ourselves within a convenience store filled to the brim with hidden Easter eggs and references. So let's just go down the list. Starting off, we can find an assortment of Dopefish related goodies, like Dopefish Okazaki sushi flavored sweets, Dope-chan chewy sweets, Dope nuts, and fruit chews. Up next we can find some Commander Keen sweets under the name Keen Candies, a chewy gummy goodness. We can also find an Easter egg for studio director Hugo Martin, as his face is seen on the front of Gulami's dried meat pieces, which is also a nod to the pizza restaurant Gulami's Pizza, first found within Doom 2016's level design, that again uses Martin's face. Up next we can find a random snack called Little Bits. Now this is actually an Easter egg for the legendary animated series Rick and Morty, where in season 2 episode 8 a commercial appears on the interdimensional cable for a restaurant for people with small mouths that airs under the name Little Bits. Alongside this we can find the potato chip company Lane's that fills the shelves of Doom Eternal. This is of course a reference to the real world company Lay's, or Walkers here in the UK. It's also worth noting that the two companies actually sport the same packet design, so it's a clear reference. A box of cookies references Oreos, and also a chocolate brand called Cocoa Cacos, referring to of course the Caco demons here within Doom. We can also find a nondescript aspirin and med boxes with some interesting benefits. Mad pills, for example. These 666mg tablets seemingly can prevent demonic possession and rigor mortis. Another aspirin brand, Sprin 81, serves 666mg tablets that relieve demonic pain and wounds fast. So if you're ever heading into the bowels of hell, be sure to take 2 of these and slay in the morning. Now once you have finished browsing the shelves, we'll arrive at this reception area where we'll see a sign behind the front desk that reads Emerson. This is in fact an Easter egg referring to id Software's senior concept and environmental designer Emerson Tung. Moving forwards, and we'll come to a broken storefront under the name Shuts. Now the interesting part is if we approach the terminal at the front of the store, we can see attached to the back of the register a post-it note that reads "Not a Mimic." This is of course referring to Arcane Studios' Prey series, as within Prey we fight these alien-like life forms known as mimics that can change and morph into pieces of furniture or technology that surrounds the game's world. Now just outside of the same store we can find an advertisement for a burger known as the BFB. This is, as you may have already guessed, an in-game reference to the Slayer's favourite weapon, the BFG. It's also worth noting that the ad is very similar in design to that of Burger King or Hungry Jack's flame grilled Whopper ads for all you Aussie peeps out there. Probably an unconscious decision, but one that is definitely worth noting. A cool little Easter egg can be found just outside from this very point, where we come across a convention center named Ion Center. This is a cool reference to id Software's founder and father of Doom, John Romero's follow-up company after he left id Software in 1996 to form the studio known as Ion Storm. Another amazing tribute can be found close by if we follow the road around and look behind this trash can, where we can see a message written on the pillar beside it that reads, life is never completely without its challenges. Signed by one SL. Now this is a quote taken from the legendary and truly inspiring Stan Lee, the man as many people know to be responsible for creating and writing the Marvel comics and characters that have lived throughout the ages. A man that has truly inspired countless of generations and will do for years to come. Although sadly Stan Lee passed away back in 2018, another amazing tribute from id Software that can easily go unnoticed. Now from one icon to another, just opposite our position, we will see a giant neon sign that advertises for a restaurant that points towards Nintendo's favorite mascot. As the large text reads, Mario's a la carte, of course referencing everyone's favorite Nintendo racer, Mario Kart. The reference also doubles down on itself as the side text reads, stay on track, referring to racetracks, and with our mystery box dinners, referencing of course the many mystery boxes throughout the Mario franchise. It's also worth noting that the background design of the advertisement is also in the shape of a racetrack itself. Although if that Easter egg didn't take you back in time, then this next one certainly will. As besides the broken rubble and ruins of this devastated area, we can find a telephone box. Now you may have already noticed that this telephone booth may seem familiar. That is of course because this is an excellent Easter egg for the 1989 comedy film Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, in where two college guys used this very same phone booth to travel throughout time and space. This is also evident by the antenna on top of the telephone booth, although it may seem that Bill and Ted never really made it out of this hellish invasion. Yikes. Progress further throughout the level and you'll arrive at the before mentioned Mario Kart restaurant. Now if you walk into the kitchen area, we can discover a second Easter egg for Claycat animations. Not only this, but in the cellar of said restaurant, we can find a hidden reference towards the Marauders, as this place only seems to serve one kind of nightmare-inducing wine known as Marauder. A fine year, I'm sure of it. After this, we'll continue forward until we reach this sewer section of the level. Now, this Easter egg can easily be missed if you do not act fast enough to capture it. But if you jump across the toxic sewers, enter the photo mode, and you will see a lone alligator swimming briefly before it disappears. This is in fact a reference to Resident Evil 2, in where within the sewer section of the game, Leon must evade a giant sewer alligator encounter. This reference only grows ever stronger as the only enemy types surrounding this Easter egg are all zombies, again providing stronger evidence that this is indeed a reference to Resident Evil 2. A very clever Easter egg by id Software to one of the franchise's more memorable moments. Shortly after this encounter, we'll come across a bloody scene in where we can find writing upon the wall that reads, "Do not shoot." Now, this is actually a repeat Easter egg from Doom 2016 that appears just outside of Olivia Pierce's office. Although I'm unsure of what this reference is actually referring to. I tried to do some research on it, but nothing really strong came up. But it's still an interesting repeat from Doom 2016. Although if any devs are out there watching this, please don't hesitate to contact me and let me know what this do not shoot thing is all about. Our next Easter egg comes to us during the opening cutscene of the level Mars Core, where we witness the Slayer walking through the UAC Phobos base. Now, this is the very first time we see the Slayer mixing with the general public, and as we can see, they are in complete terror and awe just within the mere presence of the Slayer. Now, not only is this hilarious to see their reactions, but this is actually a direct reference to the 1987 action film RoboCop, in where a similar scene plays out, as the police officers of said station react to seeing Alex Murphy for the very first time as he is being brought through the station. Our next Easter egg can be found pretty late into the Mars Core level, in where if we approach these warning screens surrounding the level, we can see that the pipeline supervisor is a 1M Kirkpatrick. This is of course named after id Software's environmental artist Mark Kirkpatrick. Now, after we've activated the BFG 10,000, we'll meet a UAC hologram who mutters the following phrase:
"See Jessica in HR and sign up now for the UAC Mortally Challenged Blood Drive. Be generous, give your blood. Give all of your blood.
Now, if you have ever played Doom 2016, you'll know that this Jessica character is a repeat Easter egg character and is a real-world reference to id Software's human resources manager, Jessica Harris, who seems to have become a fan-favorite lore character online within the Doom community. Speaking of UAC holograms, we can discover a pretty obscure reference that plays out like this.
The UAC. We've got guts. Huge guts.
So the phrase guts, huge guts, is actually a callback to the old Doom comics released in 1996, where we see the Slayer shout out, "You have huge guts." And to double down on this reference, even the motion of the UAC hologram mimics that of the original comic strip. It's also worth noting that a similar reference is made within the cutscene where we see the Slayer first arrive upon Sentinel Prime. Lastly, right at the end of the level of Mars Core sits a rare Easter egg. Just before we leave this area, if you look out into the lava pit that surrounds this location, if we veer off to the right, we can see a single arm sticking out of the lava with an OK hand gesture. I mean, this is just id Software's way of trolling people like me who are searching for these Easter eggs, so got him. Onto Terrace Nabad, and hidden within a secret cave, we can find a mysterious Easter egg that has had the community divided, and it's this golden skull. Now, many have speculated as to just what this is referring to, but for me, I believe this could be one of two hidden references. Firstly, I believe this could be a reference to the 2008 film Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull. As we can see, both skulls share a large cranium, both are alien-like in design, and both can be found within a secret cave. Of course, id Software have opted for a more in-universe design. Actually, honestly, I believe this next reference may make more sense, as I also believe that this could be another reference to He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, where in the film, the antagonist Skeletor transforms into this god-like being, who then goes on to sport a golden skull-like mask where we can see an eye placed just where the Sentinel symbol is on this golden skull. As we know that Hugo Martin took huge influence from He-Man's design when it came to creating the Slayer and the Sentinels universe, and seeing as this can be found on the Sentinels' home land, this could likely be the reference we are seeing in front of us here. But let me know in the comments what you guys think, or maybe what you think this could be referring to. Shortly after, and we'll approach this throne room, with a giant skull towering over the throne. This in itself is actually a subtle reference to the hit HBO show Game of Thrones, where throughout the series we can see various dragon skulls underneath or surrounding the throne room within King's Landing. Now from here, if we turn around and walk over to the bench, we can find another subtle reference to the hit franchise Wolfenstein. As you can see on the actual bench, we can see the franchise's iconic branding. Now, of course, the most notable He-Man reference can be seen during the cutscene of the Slayer pulling out the Crucible sword for the first time. This is of course an Easter egg towards the iconic scene of He-Man holding up his sword screaming, "I have the power!" in the classic 1983 cartoon titled Masters of the Universe. Now it's time to dive into the depths of hell itself. Necrovol, where later on in the level we can find a giant statue towering over an open arena section. Now, to any avid Doom fan, this giant silhouette should seem familiar, as the statue resembles that of Doom 2016's main antagonist, Olivia Pierce. So be sure to punch that bitch one last time and move on. Now, a sneaky reference and Easter egg to Hugo Martin's past work lies within the actual design of the Khan Maker herself and her holy race, as once you have defeated the Khan Maker, you can see her true form behind her armor. Now, this facial design clearly draws influence or inspiration from a piece of concept art from the 2013 film Pacific Rim, for one of the giant creature behemoths known as kaijus. As we can see, both of the designs are ridiculously similar, with the eyes placement, the way the fangs overlap, and the general structure and shape of the head itself. Accompanying this by the fact that studio director Hugo Martin worked on this film as well only solidifies this reference and Easter egg to Hugo Martin's past work. Now onto the last level within Doom Eternal's main campaign, Final Sin, where we face off against the epitome of all evil, the icon of sin. But hidden within the decimated city that surrounds us lies a few more hidden Easter eggs for us to uncover. Of course, we start off with the previously mentioned newspaper clipping that can be found floating throughout the air of this level. Another reference can be uttered by the UAC hologram a little further on throughout the level. Now, if you stay around long enough, the projection will state,
Lemmy is God.
Interestingly, this is actually a double reference. Firstly, once again being a tribute to the late bassist and singer of Motorhead, Lemmy Kilmister, but this also happens to be a direct quote from the 1994 comedy film Airheads, where Steve Buscemi's character replies to a trick question saying, "Wrong, Lemmy is God." Later on, if we look out into the distance of the city, we can find an Easter egg that references id Software themselves. As we can see in front of this building, id Software's company logo. It's also worth noting that the building itself seems to have been modelled after id Software's Dallas headquarters. Anyway, if there's one thing to be taken away from Doom Eternal's level design, it's that there are messages planted everywhere, and this next one is somewhat of a sad one. As we look out onto the Hive building, we can find a hidden message that reads, "I've lost." Now, not only is this a statement on the current state of Eternal's humanity at this point, but the real tearjerker is what/who is sitting atop of this building, because if you look closely, we can discover that Daisy is sitting upon the edge of this building. Ooh, a subtle jab into the Slayer's heart, as his only friend in the world was taken from him, so the message really reads, "I've lost Daisy." Damn id Software, you had to do us like that, really? Once you've gathered yourself and wiped away the tears, you can find a tall building with a red HH logo. This is in fact a sneaky reference to the online animated series named Has-Been's Hotel, a series in where monsters run a hotel/rehabilitation center within hell. And yes, guess who comes knocking on the door on one particular scene? That's right, the Doomslayer, making for a crossover the community absolutely loved, and so id Software have commemorated that iconic moment here within Eternal. Just beyond this point, we'll come across a lone hospital bed. Besides the bed on the ground, we can find a note that reads, "Welcome to Doom. You are doomed. To doom or not to doom, speak of the devil." This is a direct callback to the opening level of Doom 2016 at Hell's Gate, where we find the exact same note within the opening area of the game. Now, lastly, we'll come face to face with the icon of sin. Now, I just thought I'd cover this little section as a ton of people have been asking within the community the same question, and to be honest, I've seen no one really cover this or at least get footage of this. People are asking, is there a callback to John Romero inside of the icon of sin? Now, while using the photo mode, the game does allow you to no clip through the icon, but unfortunately there is no John Romero head in sight. Again, I just wanted to clear this up, as again, I've seen no one really answer this or have footage of this whole thing. Now, once you are done with the main campaign, you'll be transported to the Slayer's Fortress of Doom, where we can find an absolute plethora of Easter eggs referencing multiple franchises and Doom lore, so let's just head into the Doom's private quarters and dive right in. Now, firstly, if we take a look at the Slayer's weapon arsenal, we can find a small hidden detail that lies within the chainsaw, as upon closer inspection, we can find some Dopefish branding that has been carved upon the side of the weapon. Moving on, if we look around, we can see a fair few magazines and comics that are scattered throughout the Slayer's room. For example, this one here, For Guns and Bullets, which in itself is a reference to the magazine found within the Fallout universe under the same name. A skill perk first introduced within Fallout 1 and still makes appearances in Fallout entries to this very day. Not only that, but underneath we can see a headline titled "The BFG 10K is here," and yes, it's over 9,000. Now I'm sure by me simply reading that has set off alarm bells within every 90s kid's brain, as this is of course a legendary reference to the Dragon Ball Z anime where Vegeta first reads Goku's power level and screams, "It's over 9,000!" Sorry for the impression. Browse just below this and we'll find another headline that reads, "Juiced Up, an inside look into the latest plasma powered weapons that'll have you saying boy." This is in fact another reference towards the 1999 film The Iron Giant, both referring to the Iron Giant's massive plasma weaponry and a particular memeable quote from government agent Kent Mansley, boy. Upon the Slayer's desk, we can find a comic under the name Hellwatcher. Now this piece is in fact an homage to Hellboy, with the name and art style both referencing the 1993 comic book series. Directly below this comic, we can find a Kadinger Cooking, a cooking instructional magazine filled with devilish delicacies. Now, the name of this magazine is a reference to the first level of hell within Doom 2016, Katdinger's Sanctum. Accompanying this, we can read a headline that reads, "Cooking from Hell's Kitchen, thy flesh consumed." Now this again is another two-part Easter egg, the first being a reference to popular TV show Gordon Ramsay's Hell's Kitchen, and also referring towards the fourth and final chapter of the original Doom title, Thy Flesh Consumed. We can also see a headline that reads, "Winner Winner Argent Dunner." This is a clever play on words on the popular battle royale PUBG's Winner Winner Chicken Dinner, a message that will appear once you have ranked first within a match. Up next, if you take a closer look at the Slayer's workbench, you can spot a few hidden references to Doom's past. Firstly, you can see a large open container. This is in fact an Argent container, something that used to contain pure Argent energy that we could go around levels and collect within Doom 2016. Now another interesting find can be found close by, with a lone bullet standing on the workbench that reads LRP Ultra Nightmare 2016. This is a reference to a particularly unforgiving mode within Doom 2016 in where the player must complete the entire game on Ultra Nightmare only using a long-ranged pistol. Definitely no easy task indeed. It's also worth noting that the same bullet can be found underneath the Slayer's workbench, saluting all those who have accomplished such a feat. As well as this, the Slayer's pistol from Doom 2016 can be found in pieces behind the bullet, of course solidifying the fact that this weapon is no longer in use within Eternal. Speaking of Doom 2016, upon the Slayer's desk we can find this strange looking object in the corner. Now at first I thought this was some weird rebranded retro BFG design, but as it turns out this is actually Olivia Pierce's UAC ship found within the level Katdinger's Sanctum within Doom 2016. Besides this, we can see that the Slayer's been eating well, with a bunch of pizza boxes lying around his desk and his private room. Now interestingly, if we look, we can see that the Ghoulami's mascot is actually game director Hugo Martin. I mean, this brand really does seem to get around, as it first appeared within the game of Doom 2016. Maybe that's the reason the slogan for the company is "We are everywhere." One Easter egg that most people have noticed within this area is besides the Slayer's monitors, as we can find the Soul Cube that is just sat there, a devastating weapon that first featured within Doom 3, although this isn't the only time we have seen this weapon, as this model in particular seems to have been taken from Olivia Pierce's office within Doom 2016. Another interesting find is the mouse mat, as this came from a piece of concept art for Doom 2016 by senior artist John Lane. Besides both of these, we can find both physical copies of both Doom 2016's vinyl soundtrack and of course the Doom Eternal Collector's Edition tape, paying respects to the legendary composer of both god-level soundtracks, Mick Gordon. Now, just underneath the Slayer's desk, we can see a few surprises. Starting off, we can see a large rabbit hutch and a big bag of rabbit food. This is of course another reference to the Slayer's pet rabbit, Daisy. Although, I always thought this little reference was a little sad. The fact that he still keeps her stuff here. I mean, perhaps he doesn't have the heart to throw it all away. We can also find a compilation file of Daisy pictures upon the Slayer's desktop, adding to the list of Daisy references within Doom Eternal. Speaking of the Slayer's heart, if we look underneath the desk, we can see a torn family portrait. Now, many have speculated as to just who these people are, but I believe I have finally found the answer. Firstly, the people that we see within this photo are the Slayer's family, or at least they were intended to be, as their backstory and their relationship to the Slayer was intended to reveal itself within the game. Although somewhere along the line, this lore and story was cut, as evidenced by a piece of cut dialogue between the Slayer and the car maker herself upon Sentinel Prime.
Stop your foolish war now, and I will give you what you desire. I will send you back to your home, the Earth world in the 7th dimension, before the time of the demons. You may live there again as before. No memory of all the suffering you have been through. All your loved ones will be there, waiting to embrace you again, as if you had never left.
So again, this seems to be the nod to whatever remains of this hidden piece of Slayer lore. Now, with all this talk of the older Doom titles and Doom lore, you may be feeling all nostalgic. Well, it seems you are in luck, as on the other side of the desk we can find an old PC setup, which if we activate we will find a completely playable version of Doom 1 in its entirety, which is an amazing feature to add by id Software. Now, if 2 games in 1 wasn't enough for you, how about 3 games in 1? Because if you see besides the Doom 1 slot, we can see a password protected game slot, which actually leads me to my next Easter egg, because if you type the passcode Flynn Taggart, you'll unlock the entirety of Doom 2. Now you may be asking, who's Flynn Taggart? Well, Flynn Taggart was the official name given to the Slayer in the 90s Doom novel. Now these are considered to be non-canon to the game series and the game lore, but it's nice to see Eternal nod towards the franchise's more obscure past. A quick side note that every comic and magazine found within the Slayer's room are all published by Taggart Publishing. Again, another little cheeky nod to those old novels. Up next is a personal favorite Easter egg of mine, and that has to be the skateboard found besides the Slayer's desk. Now for many people, this little skateboard just kind of seemed out of place for Doom. Well, this lone skateboard is actually a reference to the Tony Hawk franchise, more specifically Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3, as you can actually unlock the Slayer as a playable character, so you can rip and tear throughout these local spots. Continuing on, just besides this, on one of the feature walls, we can find 3 badass custom guitars, and well, with 3 guitars, each holding 6 strings, makes 666, and that's pretty metal as fuck. Now lastly, you'll find by the entrance of the room a large bookshelf absolutely filled to the brim with hidden references and Easter eggs. Starting off, if you look to see what is sat atop of the bookshelf, we can see a large skull and helmet that resembles that of Commander Keen. Now interestingly, if you look upon this side of the helmet, you will see the Doom logo branded upon it. This is because this is the exact same Commander Keen skull Easter egg that first appeared within level 6 of Doom 2016. So it seems that the Slayer took the Commander's skull as a souvenir, alongside his blaster that resides next to this. Now as we browse through the fine selections of literature, you'll notice that each book contains a sneaky reference to other franchises, be it books, films, TV shows, or obscure Doom lore. Now there are a lot of references here, so we are just going to speed run through the list. The first being How to Win Friends and Kill Demons is of course a reference to the book How to Win Friends and Influence People. Atlas Ripped and Teared is a reference to the novel Atlas Shrugged, followed by The Picture of Dorian Slay, of course a nod to The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. The Caco in the Rye, a play on the novel Catcher in the Rye. Green Eggs and Pentagrams, of course, Green Eggs and Ham by Dr. Seuss. 1984 Dead Demons is a reference to the novel 1984 by George Orwell. To Kill a Mocking Demon is of course a reference to Kill a Mockingbird. The Green Gatsby, of course, The Great Gatsby. The next Easter egg lies within the author's name, which is actually another anagram for director Hugo Martin. Demon Farm is a reference to Animal Farm by George Orwell. The Very Hungry Cacodemon is of course a reference to The Hungry Caterpillar. The Power of Positive Ripping and Tearing, The Power of Positive Thinking. The Slayer's Tale is a reference to The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. How to Stop Worrying and Start Slaying, How to Start Worrying and Start Living. The Man in the High Argent Tower is referring to The Man in the High Castle. The Guts of Wrath, of course, The Grapes of Wrath by John Steinbeck. The Ripping Tree, The Giving Tree. My Best Friend Daisy is of course another reference to the Slayer's pet rabbit, Daisy. Slayer House 5 is of course referring to Slaughterhouse 5. Don Slayote is a reference to Don Quixote. Slayerstein is also another subtle reference to Wolfenstein. 50 Shades of Slay, of course, 50 Shades of Grey. Eat, Rip, Tear is a reference to Eat, Pray, Love. The Count of Catdinger Crisco is of course a reference to The Count of Monte Cristo. And lastly, Dungeons and Demons is referring to Dungeons and Dragons. Moving on to the second shelf, we'll first see a red book by the Slayer toy of 2016 called How to Comb Your Mustache by Clifton M. Fishbach. This is actually a touching tribute to the one and only Markiplier and his father, who sadly passed away when Mark was very young. The mustache part is a nod to Markiplier's icon's pink mustache, and also referring to Mark's father, who also had a killer mustache. Up next, we see the Vault Dweller's Survival Guide, which is of course a reference to Bethesda's Fallout universe, and the real-world strategy guide that released alongside Fallout 4. To Pray or Not to Pray is another reference to Arcane Studios' Prey. The fourth book is the same reference as the cooking instructional magazine, calling back to Thy Flesh Consumed and 2016's First Level of Hell. Tai Tanga is a reference to a moon or planet that Doom was originally supposed to take place on, although images of the planet still can be seen within the retail versions of Doom 1. Up next, From Nopefish to Dopefish, of course another reference adding to the list of Dopefish references within Eternal. The following book, The Retconned Life and Times of Flynn Taggart, refers to the 1995 Doom novels, and also pokes fun at the fact that these books aren't canon. The Strog, a trans-dimensional field study, is an Easter egg for the enemy race type from the Quake universe. Living with Rage is a nod to id Software's Rage franchise. The Spear of Destiny is a direct reference from the 1992 Wolfenstein game under the same name. UNATCO Bomb Defusal Training Manual is a specific reference to Deus Ex, and the memeable quote, "Oh my god JC, a bomb." Mesa Science Monthly is a nod to the Half-Life franchise. Von Braun is an ode to System Shock 2. Leandry is a subtle reference towards the Unreal franchise, and just Unreal in general. Devilish Daggers or Devil Daggers was an indie game that was hugely popular and influenced by Doom and Quake. Now, this next Easter egg is a funny one, I have to say, with Why I'm So Great by Dork Norcom, as this is a humorous reference to Duke Nukem and the self-titled autobiography in the game Duke Nukem Forever. We can also find a hidden reference to John Romero's Daigatana with this one triggering quote, "My buddy Superfly," referring to when you would try to leave a level earlier, only to be met with this piece of dialogue, "I cannot leave without my buddy Superfly." Lastly, if you have collected all 6 Imperium keys throughout the game, you will unlock the Unmaker Weapon. A weapon that first appeared within Doom 64. Now, not only is this a reference to Doom 64, but if you aim down sights, the crosshair of the weapon looks like the symbol of another id Software property, Quake. And with that, we have seen all there is to see within the Fortress of Doom. It's time to press on and start our hellish search within Eternal's first batch of story DLC, The Ancient Gods, Part 1. Now, unlike the main campaign, there isn't that many things to see in terms of Easter eggs, but there are a few hidden things lying around. Starting off within the opening moments of the DLC's first level, the UAC Atlantica, once you have picked up the first red keycard, if we turn around and take a gander at one of the multiple screens, you can see in the corner a name of a UAC technician named J. Rosencrantz. This is a reference to id Software's environmental artist, James Rosencrantz. In a short time after this encounter, you will find another nod to the classic Years of Doom. with this sprite that resembles an impaled body that once littered the older Doom games. As we have already discussed before in the 5th level Super Gore Nest, this sprite is also a callback to Doom 2016, as it can be seen within Olivia Pierce's office. Although, speaking of old Doom references, we can find another classic sprite in the latter half of this opening level, where if we approach this dead UAC scientist, upon closer inspection we'll see that he is holding a classic sprite of a neon blue keycard. And yes, as you have guessed it, this is an exact model of the older keycards found within Doom 1, 2 and 64. Now once we dive underwater closer to the UAC subterranean layer, out into the distance of the ocean floor, we can see this nightmare-inducing creature stretching out throughout the depths, sinking ships and devastating all within its path. Although to some of you, the design of this disturbing being may seem familiar, especially to a lot of Star Wars fans. That is because this creature is in fact designed and modelled after the Sarlacc creature / pit, which was a creature that first appeared within Star Wars Episode 6, Return of the Jedi. Now before we move on to the second level, the Blood Swamps, there is, or should I say there was, a secret Easter egg hidden within the menu of the game that launched besides the Ancient Gods DLC. It actually lied within the runes section, to be specific. Now if you selected the option for Blood Punch and then pressed the chainsaw command 4 times, a PNG image of the word Doge Eternal will appear. Now this is a nod to a very strange new thing called VTubers, which is basically a virtual streamer mainly dressed in like anime kawaii girl style that animates itself to an unknown host and, well, streams games, I guess. In this case, this is a reference to an online streamer known as Coroni Doge and her past streams / playthroughs of Doom 2016. Although shortly after this Easter egg was first discovered, id Software removed the Easter egg with no real explanation as to why, only the fact that they were so impressed that the reference was found so quickly. This could have been because of a running joke online regarding the game's composer Mick Gordon and a hilarious interaction he had with a VTuber playing Doom Eternal, which went super viral after a meme was made from it. And seeing as sadly due to a dispute over the release of the game's final mix of the soundtrack, Mick Gordon and id Software have sadly parted ways, and perhaps they didn't want people to make the connection between this Easter egg and Mick Gordon. Moving on, diving into the hellish and repulsive Blood Swamps, will be met with id Software's level and environmental design at its best. But one small detail you may have already missed is a huge nod to a massive film and novel franchise, as within the opening section of this level we'll come across into this open platformed area featuring a giant hentai tentacle beast that towers over the swamps below. But if you look closely into this cursed water, we'll discover the brittle and decaying bodies and remains of all of those who have fallen within these hellish swamplands. Now again, this definitely is something that has gone unnoticed in a lot of people's eyes, but as it turns out, this indeed is a reference to the 2002 film The Lord of the Rings: Two Towers, specifically the moment in where the protagonist Frodo Baggins falls into the dead marshes after following the alluring lights, a swamp-like area populated with the dead and rotting corpses of soldiers, elves and orcs that have all battled long ago. And as we can see from Doom Eternal's environmental design within the Blood Swamps, they've recreated the dead marshes perfectly, a clever nod by id Software to a huge franchise. Moving onwards, around halfway throughout the level, you'll make the decision to either choose to go left or right. Head towards the right path and you'll eventually find a secret area with a level up hidden inside of it. But before we leave this area, we can see a mural of a demon. Now this mural is in fact another nod to Doom's past, as this is in fact a mural of the classic Barons of Hell design, which can be found on the iconic cover art of Doom 1, which was designed by the late Don Ivan Punchat. Moving on, a subtle Easter egg can be found once you have discovered the brand new enemy type, the Spirits. But the reference doesn't lie within their design or anything like that. It's actually linked to how you kill these beings that reveal a nod to one of pop culture's biggest franchises. Now, the only way you can take these enemies out is by using the microwave beam on your plasma rifle, to which you may have already noticed that this iconic way of defeating such spirits is of course a nod to the Ghostbusters franchise, where the team would use their proton packs shooting out these long neon beams similar to what we see here in game to take out these spirits that once plagued New York City. Now, the last thing that can be found within the Ancient Gods Part 1 DLC isn't too far from this very location. Hidden within this open area, we can see a fallen Sentinel soldier with a strange flag that resides beside his body. Now, if we take a closer look, we can see a design that resembles that of the classic Slayer skin stitched upon it. This is again a nod to Doom lore and of course the classic Slayer, as it is said earlier within the DLC that many Sentinel soldiers followed the Slayer's work and many had fallen trying to reach the Father. So here we see an admirer of the Slayer's work trying to aid him in defeating all evil. Okay, now before we end this already monster of a video, we must first look at the Easter eggs hidden within the game's official soundtrack. Yes, that's right, it wasn't enough to find all of these Easter eggs throughout the game, but now due to the legendary Mech Gordon, he has hidden secret sounds and even images buried within the audio files of this very soundtrack. Honestly, I had to say, the amount of times I thought I was done with this video, the amount of times I thought I found everything, id Software started to act like DJ Khaled. Another one. So we begin with a very special hidden Easter egg that features within the game's main theme track. As of 4 minutes 20, I know, blaze it, you'll hear a bunch of background noises and some faint screams. But if you change the audio track to mono, this secret jingle will play. Now this is an amazing reference to the original Doom 1 ending, in where we see a cutscene of Daisy sitting amongst a meadow, which then pans over to see her impaled, decapitated head upon a spike, as we see the hellish invasion of Earth in the background. Now this single moment fueled the Slayer's hate towards the demons as they killed the Slayer's only friend, his pet rabbit, Daisy. Now of course, with this being Doom, there are a ton of hellish imagery hidden within the audio files of the soundtrack, but in order for us to actually see them, we'll have to dive into Audition so we can view the audio's spectrographs. Now, as I said, we can find pentagrams littered throughout these following songs: The Icon of Sin, Blood Sacrifice, Dreg Nilok's First Death, Doom Hunted, which also features the numbers 666 throughout the track. And lastly, the Carnmaker's remixed track by Chad Mossholder. But lastly, the absolute genius that is Mech Gordon has hidden the best and most obscure Easter egg of all time. I have to say it, because buried within the track Welcome Home Great Slayer, a track that plays throughout the level Sentinel Prime, is an amazing, and I mean amazing, callback to Doom's past. Because if we zoom in during the track's final moments, we can unbelievably find the entirety of the artwork for the second Doom entry, Doom 2. I mean, wow, what the hell? Out of all the things I ever expected to find hidden within a soundtrack, this was definitely not one of them. I am completely blown away. Damn, Mech Gordon, you are an absolute legend. What a touching tribute towards Doom's past. Amazing. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, that is all my Easter egg findings hidden within Doom Eternal. I have to admit this took a lot of work to discover every hidden reference, but this was an absolute labor of love to create. And I hope you've all enjoyed and learned something new regarding our favorite Hellraiser. Now, I'm sure there are probably a few things that I may have missed in this list, so if you have found something that I haven't reported on, please feel free to comment down below on your findings throughout Doom Eternal. Although, as I stated in the beginning of this video, I purposely left out all the collectibles and Daisy Easter eggs, as I had already covered them in 2 previous uploads, which can be found linked down in the description below. But with an Easter egg count of over 160, I'm pretty sure I have found every hidden reference and Easter egg within the game so far. But I'm sure there will be more to come within the next expansion, The Ancient Gods Part 2, coming in 2021. But hey, if anyone from id Software is watching this, I'd love to hear what I have missed, so don't hesitate to reach out. So until then, I thank you all for watching. If you wish to speak to me about this or any future content that's coming up, or just want to hang out, why not join our brand new Discord server, which is linked down in the description below, where we talk all things Bethesda, gaming, and generally just have a laugh with one another. So why not join? Also, this video did take over a month to make and did take up a lot of my free time. So if you hit that on that like and subscribe button, it would be much appreciated, so you do not miss out on future content, as I am working on bigger projects that do frankly take time to make. And until then, please stand by, where I think it's time I solved one of Skyrim's biggest mysteries.